In this video, we're going to configure the various parameters of the PACSVault. The configuration menus are held at the top under Configure, and we have 5 choices. General Program, Archive, which is the destination that the PACSVault forwards images to. The removable drives, which includes 2 possible drives for backing up the data. Destinations, which is like the archive, except for we can have many of these, and they are the destinations for the vaulted images actions, such as sending a particular patient's images or rebuilding the PACS, and indeed could include the archive. And finally, we have an ability to disable rights to the removable drives. You would typically do this when you mount an old drive into the system for restoring patients' images or rebuilding the PACS. While the images are disabled to the removable drive, they're still queued up and held so that when this is turned off, which it currently is, there's no checkbox here, the images that have previously come in will be automatically sent to the removable drives. Picking the general program, what we see are first the serial number, which is a number that we provide. It's a licensing number. When you contact us through email, you will give us this report code, which you can do through a cut and paste, and we will then respond with a serial number that will allow you to use the system on an ongoing basis. And then we have a configuration of the Dicom receive engine on the PACSVault. The first number is the incoming port. Typically 104 is used for Dicom, but you can configure it to be whatever you want. The Dicom timeout is how long in minutes the engine will wait during receiving of an image or sending an image to the archive before it's determined that effectively the image isn't going to complete. When this time has elapsed, the system will shut down that engine, restart it, and make an attempt to retransmit the image. Underneath here we have 2 audio alarm parameters. The first says whether there will be an audio alarm, and the second says how many errors before we start the audio alarm. This is a sound the program makes to indicate that something is not working as expected. So in this case, if we get 100 errors going to the archive, the alarm will start, and it will then turn off if it gets down below 100 errors. We can save any changes, we can cancel. The next configuration option is the archive. You can turn off the archive so that you're sending images directly to the removable drives only and not to the archive, or you can re-enable it. Typically you would want the archive turned off if there's a known problem to the archive, or if the modality is sending both to the PACSVault and to the archive. If this was left on, then you could end up having 2 copies of each image being sent to the archive, which would waste space. Underneath that are the 4 parameters you use to configure the destination of the archive, and these can be determined by the archive's control panel. The first is the TCP IP address of the archive, then again the Dicom engine receive port for the archive, and then finally 2 application entity or AE titles. The first one is our title, and the second one is their title, or the archive's title. The title coming from us is only relevant if your archive is set for non-promiscuous receive, which means that it will not receive an image unless it can first verify the sender, in which case you will need to enter an AE title for us here, and also enable the same AE title on the archive's configuration. Again, save or cancel. The third has to do with the removable drives, and that's the 2 possible drives that copies of images will be sent to for later restoration. You can enable each one of them separately, and once you do, you have to enter the first character of the drive that the configuration represents. So this is the D drive. If we wanted the E drive here, we would just enter an E. and that would be fine. If you're going to enable only one of them, it makes sense to enable the first one, leave the second one disabled. It is also possible to disable both of them, but that is not typically done. It also gives you a little bit of information about that drive, telling you the drive number. This one starts with a 1 because it's drive 1, and this is the 7th drive in the series. And this one would start with a 2 if there was a drive out there, and would then again show you an ID. These IDs are helpful along with the start date and the end date of images on that drive, so that you can make sure if you're doing a restore that you've gotten all the drives, or if you're doing a send of a specific patient, that you've gotten the right time frame that you're looking for. Again, we could save this, but we'll cancel. The next destination configuration is very similar to the archive. We've added a name. This is a name that you'll recognize, and typically how you'll select the destination, as well as the TCP/IP address, the Dicom receive port on that destination, the AE titles for the destination and for us. To add a new one, we have none in this. We will create one. We'll call it Mark 2, and we will give it an IP address of 192.168.0.100. Give it an IP port of 104, and we'll call it Mark. And we will hit the Add Destination button, and what you can see is it's been added here. If we were to then change this and add it again, let's make this 101, we'll call it Mark 3. It'll be put into our list of destinations in the order they were entered. If we wanted to move this one up, we could identify it, say move selection up, and it becomes the top one. This is handy because when you're sending to a destination, you will see a drop-down list of the possible destinations, and the most popular ones, the ones you use the most often, should be towards the top. When you want to delete one, it's simply a matter of clicking on it to select it and hit delete selected destination. And when you're done, there's no save on this one. We just close it, and it's then available. If we go back to configure on destinations, we'll see Mark 3 is still there, and we can go ahead and work with it. If you want to change it at some point, you simply select the right destination, which populates the information, and add a destination. Since the new one always gets put behind or at the end, we've now added this one, which is our new one. This one's our old one, which is still 101. We can delete the original, and then our new one is set. The final configuration piece is that disable, which you can see has happened now under config. You'll see that it's got a check. It tells us that it's disabled. It's still going to take any images that come in and save them for us, but it's not going to write them actively while that check is active. As soon as we hit the button, it goes away, and it will handle anything that's been queued up during the time that it was disabled. Again, the reason for that is to allow you to mount old drives in the system and not worry about new images being put on those drives while you're doing a send of an individual patient or a PACS rebuild.